Welcome everybody to the Middle School Building Committee meeting of February 10th, 2025. This meeting is being held in room 219 at the Savage Center, and this is a virtual meeting. Again, welcome everyone. Thank you for coming. First part of the agenda is public comments. Do we have anybody online who's willing to speak? Looking to speak? Seeing none, do we have anyone here from the public who's looking to speak? Mr. Morrison, the floor is yours.
Thank you. My name is Rick Morrison, and I've been following the field and the concession stand with the project. And a couple of weeks ago, a concern came up about the location of a trailer, and it was involved with the softball field. It was in the way of the base path. So that was brought up to Luke. And also, there was a concern about the asphalt coverage around the concession stand. It was thought that it was mostly asphalt and not much grass. And that was also brought up to Luke, and he addressed that, and it's going to be in his presentation. So I'm just here to sit in on that.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you. All right. Next item on the agenda, approval of minutes. Minutes of January 13th.
Move for approval.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Discussion? Hearing none. We'll have to take a roll call vote. Paul Riccardi.
Yes.
Jason Adams. Bob Donnelly.
Yes.
Tim Luff.
Yes.
Dave Hiltz.
Yes.
Margot Frezek.
Yes.
Gary Pelletier.
Yes.
And Chairman votes yes. Thank you. That's unanimous. The next item on our agenda are the invoices from, I assume, January of 2025.
Yes, I'll walk you through the invoice package for January. The first line will be Vertex OPM services totaling $95,618. Lines 2 and 3 for AI3 architectural services, including their engineers, totaling $71,043.62. Line item number 4 is an FF&E invoice for the display case for the historical clock from 1031 Incorporated for a total cost of $5,502.37. Line item number 5 is for Fanat Engineering and Testing for on-site quality control testing, totaling $948.30. Line number 6 is a technology invoice for servers purchased through HIQ, totaling $133,159. And line 7 is a credit from NextGen for some return toilet accessories that were double ordered. Lines number 8 and 9 are for WT Rich's application for payment number 20, totaling $3,715,322.07 for a grand total in January of $4,021,021.47.
Okay, thank you. Questions from anyone? Pleasure of the committee.
I'll make a motion to approve the vendor invoice package. I'll second.
I assume that's for the amount that's been,
For $4,021,021.47.
okay, thank you. All right. Any discussion? Seeing none, let's go to a vote. Start with Paul Riccardi,
Yes.
Jason Adams, Bob Donnelly,
Yes.
Tim Luff,
Yes.
Dave Hiltz,
Yes.
Diane Ferreira,
Yes.
Margot Frezek,
Yes.
Gary Pelletier,
Yes.
and Chairman votes yes. That's unanimous. Again, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, then project budget update.
Sure, so included in the package is the updated VIP. If we scroll to the last page here, we're tracking through the end of January, 136.3 million committed of the $147.9 million budget, which is about 92% of that budget has been committed to date, with 102 million spent, so that's 69% of the budget has been spent to date. And we are still tracking the 11.5 million in uncommitted funds at this time. For the MSBA reimbursement, MSBA has reimbursed through request number 37 for a total of $35,220,137, which has been 54% of what we're tracking for that reimbursement rate at this time. Number 38 through November and 39 for December has been submitted to the MSBA for reimbursement. Any questions?
Okay.
Thank you. Continuing with the project update, in January we saw the Norwood Blue facade panels arrive on site and form the area around the media center on the second floor along the south elevation. On the right-hand side, we're seeing the concession stand starting to take form, where exterior walls have been framed, the roof has been sheeted, and progress is continuing on that, weather dependent throughout the winter. In the gymnasium, we started to see the vinyl wall graphics installed with the Norwood and the Mustang emblem. On the right-hand side, last week, the subflooring for the hardwood floor started to be installed. That was completed at the end of the week. And the wood flooring is in that space, acclimating to the temperature and the humidity in that space before it is installed. In the auditorium, we continue to see finishes be installed in that space. You can see the ceiling panels have been installed, and they're in the process of installing the wall panels, which are getting installed and then painted various shades of blue there. On the right-hand side, this is the third floor kitchen. At the 7th and 8th grade student commons, the kitchen equipment has arrived and is being set up and installed in its final locations. For some activity achieved this month, to mention the third floor, flooring on the third floor for the classrooms was completed. They're moved down to the second floor and it's completing some locations in the hallway. The distributed antenna system, the DAS, which is a antenna system for emergency response, fire and police communications, was installed. As we mentioned, the wood flooring for the gym arrived, the auditorium wood ceiling was completed, and power was live to lighting and outlets on the 3rd and 4th floors. Next slide. So continuing with the activity that is currently ongoing on site, the fiber cement panels, as we saw, are being installed along the south elevation. The ceiling grid for the first floor dining commons right inside the main entrance is being installed. Kitchen equipment has arrived, or kitchen equipment, sorry, will arrive for the first floor kitchen in mid-February. The floor is being installed in that space as we speak. Counter and casework installation is wrapping up on the first floor. As we mentioned, the gym flooring. Classroom flooring is continuing on the second floor, and we'll be moving down to the first floor shortly. And above ceiling inspections are ongoing on the 4th and 3rd floors as they look for inspections there to begin installing the ceiling tiles and completing those spaces. And then another activity we're tracking is just the removal of the loading bays that we've seen for the last few months along the north elevation. We're going to close those up, get the facade weather tight, and complete those rooms on the inside. Just a high-level schedule update. So as we start to head into the summertime, we'll be transitioning the building from more construction into more town space and fit out. We're going to continue to share the schedule update so we can transition to more of, like I said, the town activities. A couple activities that have seen slip that we're not too concerned about at this time For example, wireless access points were scheduled to be installed in February. We're seeing those showing up in March now. Again, not concerned with the overall schedule. We're just starting to track these things a little tighter as there's not as much time on the back end at this point in the schedule.
Next up, we have a list of meetings that we held last month and meetings coming up this month. A couple to note for last month was as Rick had noted, we met with Rick about the locations of the storage containers, which we'll talk about a little later on. And we had our last safety and security meeting where we finalized the security protocol, so that's a closed item. And then coming up this month, we already had it, actually last week we met with Inspectional Services and the Norwood Fire Department and went through a checklist of everything we need to do to complete the project to get all on the same page. And then we also have W Church has scheduled a meeting with Highland Seating, which is great. That means that the seating for the auditorium is coming soon. So again, more finishes happening. Quick FF&E and technology update. Again, we're in great shape with the FF&E and technology budgets. Everything's tracking for those two to be under budget at this point. We talked about with the excess funds we have a running wish list of items which will get prioritized and slowly brought to the committee for approval. Transition update. So we hired Wakefield Moving as our moving company. They've delivered the first round of crates. Teachers have started packing. The next thing we're looking at coordinating is the salvage process with what to do with everything else that remains in the building. The first step of that process is to inventory the building. So we're working on doing that over February vacation, and then we can start moving forward with that process. We do have a couple technology purchase orders up for, questions, yeah?
Bob, before we move into the motions for the orders, so we have March, April, May, those are our three remaining meeting months.
Mm-hmm.
And with substantial completion being June the 6th, I'm wondering if there's opportunity, probably not March, but maybe not April, but perhaps April or May for, when it's safe to go in there for another physical tour during one of our meetings?
Sure.
Yeah, absolutely.
We could even do whatever
Yeah.
works, yeah.
Okay.
Do people have a preference when they'd like to go? Would they like to go in April? Would they like to go in May?
May when it's.
May?
Yeah.
I was going to say even April, things will be pretty close to finished, and we'll just be working through, mostly inspections. April sound good? Should
Yeah.
Sounds good.
we could always do it
Okay.
again in May.
Okay.
Or June, and then it'll be really
So
good.
this meeting in April will be at the site?
Yeah, and can we use the W Church trailer again? I think
Yeah,
that worked out
yeah,
well
of course.
before,
Okay.
so. Great.
If we're planning not far out, what about, I'm sure there will be some sort of ceremonial opening in the fall. We started thinking about that.
Yeah, so we have monthly transition meetings, and actually they're going to probably start being bi-monthly. And that's one of the things that's kind of on our list that we talk about is like a ribbon cutting or a grand opening. We've talked about tours for students, for staff, for parents, and different groups of students coming in August. So we've been planning a lot of that stuff. We have a transition schedule that kind of shows month to month, week to week for each month, like what's happening, and kind of keep us on track. But yeah, I can share that. I can share that with you too. So,
Okay.
yeah.
Yeah, we'll have to talk and start figuring out the best date for the, for the ribbon cutting.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. All right.
So moving on, so technology purchase orders. The first one that I have for you this evening is the teacher laptops. So we got a bunch of different quotes from 3 different companies. And the one, Joe Kidd kind of goes through them, and he recommends what he would prefer, which for this one is the Dell quote that is for $115,907.35. And he recommends this because these laptops match what the teachers already have, so it's easier for the IT department when they have to service everything. It's all the same model, the same brand. Also, these have come in $64,000 under budget, and so that's our recommendation. We're looking for approval on that purchase order this evening. Any questions?
Okay.
Mr. Chair, I'll make a motion to approve the Dell quote dated February 16, 2025 for teacher workstations totaling $115,907.35.
Okay, thank you. Do we have a second?
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Discussion?
Yeah, can we change the 35 to 34 cents?
Got it right here in the pocket. The penny, not the 115,000.
Well, you realize there's a
Sounds like a
recommendation,
dollar.
there's a recommendation in Washington to eliminate minting new pennies, so, let's
It's a good thing
not
we're spending
overlook,
all.
a cent here or there. In any event, further discussion? Hearing none, let's take a vote. Paul Riccardi,
Yes.
Jason Adams, Bob Donnelly,
Yes.
Tim Luff,
Yes.
Dave Hiltz,
Yes.
Diane Ferreira,
Yes.
Margot Frezek,
Yes.
Gary Pelletier,
Yes.
and Chairman votes yes, unanimous. Thank you. Could you just go back to that one for a second?
Yeah.
Just the last line, it says a couple of the quotes may be subject to upcoming tariffs. Could you go in a little bit explanation of that?
Yeah, when I was talking to Joe last week, he was saying, and I can't remember, I think it was for the Lenovo ones, or maybe it was the Acers, that if they were looking for approval on their purchase order last week because they were afraid that they were going to be hit with tariffs starting this week. And
Okay.
while we do have additional items to purchase, we're not too concerned about it because everything going forward is a much smaller quantity. So I think for computers, we have really just a computer lab left. So while that might run into an issue, it might be a little bit of a risk. It's not for huge amounts of computers like
Okay.
we've already purchased. So that was just kind of a note. And we are avoiding that for this PO, so it's not a concern yet. The next item we have up for review and approval is new radios for the schools. So during the day, the schools have kind of two-way radios like walkie-talkies, and they are looking to purchase some new ones for the new building. We do not have a full quote yet, but we're looking for approval up to $25,000, and Facilities has their vendor that they work with who we will purchase these through.
Okay, good. Paul, you're good with this?
I'm good with it, yeah.
Good, okay.
Because the existing radios will be used in the other buildings in
Okay,
the schools. so.
good. Further discussion? Hearing none? Pleasure of the committee?
Mr. Chair, I make a motion to approve the purchasing of new facilities radio system up to $25,000 for use in the new school.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Any further discussion? Seeing none, let's go to a vote. Paul Riccardi,
Yes.
Jason Adams, Bob Donnelly,
Yes?
Tim Luff,
Yes.
David Hiltz,
Yes.
Diane Ferreira,
Yes.
Margot Frezek,
Yes.
Gary Pelletier,
Yes.
and Chairman votes yes. That's unanimous. Thank you. All right. Change orders.
All right. I'm going to adjust the volume. Lost here. There we go. Sorry about that.
Okay, so we have 3 change orders presented, part of change order 17 for approval tonight. The first one is 8137, which added a millwork pocket door cover at 2 of the security doors that are installed in the building. This pocket cover was excluded by the door manufacturer and intended to be part of the millwork package to match the rest of the millwork throughout the project, which was missed at buyout. Cost for those 2 doors, $12,150. The next one, 8143, which is for some fiber cement, the roof screen on the lower level. The substrate needed to be waterproofed. The substrate was added for longevity of the panels, and then we missed the waterproofing on that in the original ad there. So the cost for the waterproofing only is $5,796. And finally, 8139 for proposal request 66, which flipped the swing on the doors from swinging into the room to out of the room, in the room 435 and 43, which are two electric rooms in the building. And based on the voltage of the equipment in the building, required those doors to swing out for code, which is the reason for the flip there. So in total, we're looking for approval of change order 17, the amount of $17,946.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Any questions?
Just trying, on the pocket door, can you just, what exactly is it?
So they're
Visual, I'm trying to
They're
visualize it.
they're sliding doors similar to the track we have here in this room for the dividing partition that fold into a pocket in the corridor, and that it's an unfinished door, essentially. It's more of a security door than a building door. So they've added a millwork front to look like the rest of the doors in the building on that.
So that wasn't part of the original design?
It was part of the design, not part of the buy of the door, which was missed. Intended to be part of the millwork package to match
So
the
the
rest.
millwork company missed it
Correct.
in the plans?
Correct.
Okay.
And how many doors?
Two.
Two? Okay.
And specifically, where are those doors?
They have three
Inside
kind of-
on,
Separates the gym and the public space from the rest of the building,
Okay,
that entryway.
gotcha, okay. All right, good. Okay.
Mr. Chair, I'll
Yeah.
make a motion
Mhm.
To approve W.T. Rich change order number 17 in the amount of $17,946.
Okay, thank you. Do we have a second?
Second.
Made and seconded. Further discussion? Seeing none, let's take a vote. Paul Riccardi,
Yes.
Jason Adams, Bob Donnelly,
Yes.
Tim Luff,
Yes.
David Hiltz,
Yes.
Diane Ferreira,
yes.
Margot Frezek,
Yes.
Gary Pelletier,
Yes.
and chairman's vote yes, unanimous. Again, thank you. Okay.
Just next slide is an update on the open potential change orders. The full PCO log was handed out at the meeting. The numbers in there are updated through OCO, or change order number 16, which is also inclusive of the January application for payment. The value just approved for change order 17 is included in the estimated and pending column of 516,000. At this point, that's what we're still tracking for open change orders, and we are still tracking just at that 1.5% of the project budget in approved change orders at this time. It's an update on some previously discussed topics. The screen wall, which we had talked about in October, has been tabled. The turf field lines, which we could give a brief update on, that we met with the team, looked at adding the additional lines, and it was not recommended by the design team as well as the turf field manufacturer. The reason being the added lines would create much more seams, and they were concerned about long-term maintenance of the stitching in the field at that time. They're also concerned there's just too many lines and could cause some confusion. So we decided not to proceed with the additional lines and at that turf field. As Rick mentioned in the beginning, we talked a little bit more about the concession stand. If you want to flip to the next slide. I don't know if Rick, you want to jump in here, but this next one's closer up. Closer up shot of the area of the concession stand. So we can see the area in dark gray around the concession stand will be asphalt with some walkways down to the tennis courts and connecting to the athletic fields. That is the grass field right there with some trees and shrubs around that. I think there's some flag in that middle section there with a memorial plaque. And that is the current design of this area at this time. Anybody has anything to add to that?
Is the Dick Joseph Memorial, is that the gray area to the left of where the flag is? That little,
Yes, yes,
so that's definitely included.
yes.
All right. Yeah, the rec department, I showed the rec department that sketch, and they were happy to see that it was all grass. We had an on-site visit also, and so that works out fine because the green grass where, to differentiate between that and the pathway, explained everything.
Okay. Great.
So that was great, thank you for that.
You're welcome.
And what was the other thing? Oh, the two large trees, you pointed those out. Are they the ones to the right of the concession stand and directly in front? Are those the 50-foot?
Yeah, those two.
Okay, all right. And you had said those are oak. Are those like slow growers, or do they take 30 years to reach that height?
I can follow up on that and get back to you on that. I don't know the exact size or caliber that they're called
Right.
to be on the top of my head.
Because it would be nice if there was a variety that was
Sure,
reach
right.
that height, but quicker.
Sure, right. Yeah, we can look into that, and I can follow up with you on that one.
Okay. Other than that, it's great. Thank
Great.
you. Oh,
Welcome.
did you come up with a rough idea of the apron in front of the concession
No, I
stand?
don't have that. I will
Okay,
answer
I'll
that.
get that
No
to you
problem.
later.
Yep,
Yeah. Thank you.
no problem.
Okay, you're all set, Rick?
Yep, good, thank you.
Thank you. Bob?
So, update on previously discussed topics. The screen wall table at the October meeting. Are those the screenings for the rooftop units?
Yes.
The top floor, yeah.
So I was just wondering with, now that we are less than 4 months to substantial completion, what would be the timing for revisiting the issue of the screenings on the rooftop screenings, perhaps with a more extensive review of options for screenings for rooftops?
I know we looked at making a decision on whether go or no-go. I believe it was in the summer of 2026, as I recall. So I guess that being the case, what would have to be done in the interim, and what schedule, so that we'd have all the information we need to make the decision.
Yeah, so as far as I recall, at the October meeting, that was the decision, is to punt until potentially after the school is turned over.
Right.
And then work on it during that summer of 2026.
Yeah. Well, I thought that the decision was to make a decision, in the summer of 2026.
Sure. Yeah, we've explored a few options. I think we have preliminary pricing from WT Rich on 3 options, I believe. We can recirculate those and look at those again.
Mm-hmm.
If those aren't acceptable, we're looking at some other options, potentially.
I mean, what other options could we look at? Would it be just a different configuration? Fewer units would be screened, or a different option entirely?
I think it would have to be eliminating the number of units screened. We've looked at, I don't think there's any different type of option we could look at.
Yeah.
We've tried to find an option that was non-intrusive to the roof and the structure below, but we have not been able to find something like that that can sustain the wind load. So I think that's the problem there.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, I think
Yeah.
that there needs to be a more descriptive scope of work put forth and then bid, frankly. I think it was very preliminary. Pricing didn't include structural. There was a lot of unknowns that were included in the options that I saw. Anything that's going to be mounted up there is going to have to be mounted to the roof, but it's not rocket science to do it. So I think I would like to see a more complete scope of work brought and discussed and approved, and then put that out to bid. And I would say at this point, I think we should move forward with getting it a full and complete scope of work and get it priced by multiple vendors,
Okay.
and then evaluate that.
Okay, would that have to go out to a formal bid? Is that what you're saying?
No, it can be put out
Okay.
on the street by our
Okay.
GC and our OPM.
So essentially what you're saying is, let's get everything set so that
Let's include engineering, let's include the
engineering
drawings,
and
and get real pricing.
everything, get some real pricing. But again, I'm hesitant to make a decision before the summer of 2026.
Yeah, but we would know whether
We'd
or
know
not
what
we
we're
were going to
doing.
be entertaining it or not.
Yeah.
So I think it would be in 2 steps. I think we can get a price to get drawings and an actual scope of work. and we can, from AI3 and their subcontractor, or their consultants, and then once that'll get approved here, and then once we have that, then we can send it to W2 Ridge and they can do pricing with their sub, but it would kind of be like a two-step almost process. if
Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Let's
And
do that
and we can
then.
kind of put a timeline together too, and maybe bring that to you next
Yeah.
next
Because-
month, see how long it'll take.
Yeah, because we may look at things and say, not a big deal. On the other hand, we may look at things and think it is a big deal, but at least you using this schedule, we'll be ready to go, in enough time to make a decision.
For that summer, 26.
Yeah.
Are you saying you want to make a decision for in the summer of 26, or you want a decision before that and an install in the summer of 26? Because I think the last time we talked, we were talking about install over the summer, right, when the building's empty?
Okay.
I think that we could include.
We could probably do either timeline or just,
Could include in the
one.
scope of work, information from the vendors on the length of the work.
Right.
Yeah.
With the stipulation that the work be done during the summer months when
Right.
school's out.
'Cause I think that's
And
what we
will that
talked
be a
about before.
Will it be a
Right.
two-season, length of duration of work?
Yeah.
Or will it be, can they do it in 1 year?
Yeah.
There's obviously advantages.
No, you're right. I mean, I think just, recalling, I think we talked about doing the work in the summer of 2026, so, while school is out of session. So we'll have to make a decision well before that, go or no go.
Yeah, we're gonna have to look at the impact
Yeah,
that work would cause to the school, because the school will be occupied and open in the summer with summer programs.
mm-hmm,
So we gotta weigh that
yeah,
part too.
okay.
And we can kind of consider some options, and I think we referenced this earlier. To me, the priority would be the screenings that are directly in front of the school. Just my observation, if you go to the back of the school, you do not see many rooftop units because of where you're looking up, you're lower than, but in the front of the school there, I think that's the priority. And that appears to be where most of them are located. So just some options to look at in case we wanted to prioritize where they would be located. Might be helpful.
Yeah.
So they're purely like more visual, not for protection.
Basically, the height.
There's a few units that would be a dual purpose, because there's some guarding that was added in one of the other PCOs because of equipment that is within the fall requirement, the fall protection requirement of the edge of the roof.
Okay. Now, as I understand it, you look at this on a statewide basis, and sort of like 50% have them, 50% don't have them.
yeah. Yeah, I think that's, I know Brian went through a lot of our jobs, and that was kind of what he came up with. It's kind of 50-50. There's no like standard across the board.
Yeah,
Yeah,
right.
But the problem we have is we showed screens
correct,
on
understood.
all of our sales to the community,
Yep.
and now we don't have them. And we don't know really why we don't have them. They just disappeared. But that said, are there different cabinets that act as a screen as well as the cabinets for the units? You know what I'm talking about? I mean, is there a different cabinet for the rooftop units than the existing ones that are up there? That would, then the work's all outside, not inside the building. I'm just wondering. I don't know. I've never seen it, but I'm just.
Yeah, we didn't find it in our research. There was a couple things that you could actually attach to the unit itself, but that had a compiled issue where warranties of the unit,
Right.
and then the unit would have to be redesigned for its actual support to the structure, and if
Right.
that was enough, and it really didn't give you the visual blocking you're looking for, it's really
Yeah.
just at the unit. But yeah, there was definitely a lot of guesses made in the initial pricing of what we're gonna impact versus what we're not, and we did get the pricing from just our current subs. So yeah, if we could get a final design and send it out actually for bid, and also to the subs we have on board now, we can definitely go with that, so.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, part of the problem too is because it's a newer building and it was designed to be all electric, you have a lot more condensing units on the roof than
Yeah.
a typical older, and even 5 years ago.
Yeah.
You know, you might only have a half a dozen rooftop
Yeah.
units, whereas in addition to the rooftop units that you have, you've got, I don't even know, over 20 condensing units on that roof. So
That's a lot, yeah.
And they all tend to be near the front, so
Yeah.
you're seeing them all.
Okay, I mean, I know I drive past the new middle school in Walpole every so often, and, you know, they don't have shielding. So, I mean, a lot of times, it's really what the community wants, but I think it makes perfect sense to get a plan, we'll make a decision, and move on.
Sounds good.
Will do.
Okay? Good, okay. What else?
The only other item on the previously discussed was a town financial update that Tony had provided last month on just the money had remaining in the budget, but obviously we're looking at ways to spend that, so no more update from there.
Okay.
We had a few just from the school side, so I'm disappointed to hear because most schools that returf have all of those lines anyway, and I don't think it's really effective. Like I'm sure, you know, the experts know that those turf fields wear a certain way, but you know, for the so many lines and confusion, it's so much better than having to paint them on. Because I've worked in schools like that, so I would still advocate. I think, you know, Paul, you had suggested that in the radios.
Right, but when we looked at it, David, we've got, for the little kids soccer program, we got lines going across the field.
Okay.
Mini soccer fields. So that adds
I didn't realize
to
that
the
we
to
have
the
those.
line congestion that's out there.
Okay. And then just the other one for a future meeting, although Teresa is not here, she was just curious around, I think I have this right, there was a play space, we value engineered it out, but with what we have, maybe looking at some proposals, not necessarily to put a playground per se, but just like an area.
Yeah, I mean, you know, whether it's some
Look at
benches
you,
or a basketball court, you
Yeah.
know, something, yeah, we will look into that.
Yeah, she reached out. We're gonna put that on the agenda for next meeting. We'll have the design of what we currently own there, and we can talk through that.
And we did discuss as the school committee side, we are looking in, and our lawyers looking at some language that we had found around the MSBA about creating a fund, you know, that it would have to be matched, but that you can take monies left over from programs like this and put it towards long-term capital planning. So we do want to bring that back to you guys. We feel strongly about that. And I think the other thing, and I'll say it, and I don't want to throw Paul under the bus here, but Paul was at our...
Join the crowd.
Paul was at the meeting, and he makes a great point, right? Like 10 years ago, we did this study. It said 10 years ago that it was about $40 million that we have for elementary schools. There is no way the town is going to give us probably close to $1 billion to redo all 6. I think that if there's a significant amount of money left, we should seriously consider putting it towards going back into the MSBA. It's a capital project, like this is where we're at, and just seeing some of the data that Paul had presented just with facility stuff around the schools. They're old buildings, they're well taken care of, but it's something we need to consider. We also did talk about the topic of the turf field, and while we don't want to, you know, we want to work in partnership with our, you know, our rec sports in town and youth sports and all of that. You know, I think we feel strongly where, you know, there was the one turf field we were going to replace. You know, the town does have quite a bit in its reserves, and I think that a warrant or a project like that on a town, sort of a town-wide thing is something that should be explored that way, because we're, you know, using that money, yes, it's for a field, but that field is going to go to the town. It's not going to go to that school project. You know, it would be under the control and rental of the town, and we had talked about that. So,
I'm just a little bit confused. So you're saying you're talking about building an additional turf field?
no, when that was presented,
Right.
I think some of the school committee was a little bit, just had some questions around that. Like, yes, we get the intent, and the intent is good, but in the initial scope of the project, it was, you know, we're going to redo the one when we raise the building in front and put
Yeah.
the turf field there. And while it is a need, when we talk about, and I think I said this in an earlier meeting, that you know, when you build these schools, people look to get in with, you know, some of the money in school, and that's fine, but like, you know, we'd be doing a turf field and then handing it over to the town, and it's not gonna be something that is necessarily related to, you know, school use, and we feel strongly about that, and we also feel strongly about that with the amount of money the town has and some of the other projects that they're looking into.
Understood, that may be a discussion, you know, more for school committee and general government as opposed to this committee.
Okay.
To be perfectly honest.
I actually, that resonates with me. You know, one of the issues that I had about the field itself is that, from a government perspective, it's not on any 5-year plan for capital outlays. If it comes back into capital outlay, then we're talking about bouncing some other projects around, and that's process-wise, it struck me as putting the cart before the horse as well. So I kind of can see your point in the school committees as well.
Yeah, I mean, in terms of what to do with remaining money, I mean, if you have some kind of legal opinion that MSBA accepts, which says that money can be put aside for another purpose, we'd certainly like to see that. My understanding has always been that MSBA approved this project for this site. If you wanted to do something on another site, MSBA has, as I remember, has a set of requirements. You know, you have to wait a certain time before you can go ahead with another project, you know, which is a time period, you know, following project closeout. So, I mean, I don't know what we could do with MSBA with the remaining money. Again, if we have some kind of legal opinion on that, that would be great. You know, sort of tell us from that perspective what we can do. But let's see what that opinion says first, and then we could move on. Okay.
Brian raised his hand.
This is Brian. MSBA was just closed with reimbursement related to this project. So they'll ask you to close this project out for all the funds related to the middle school. And then they'll close the budget from their perspective based on that. The town would then have to follow the correct protocols to use money for other things in town. The MSBA would not partake in any reimbursement for that money.
Okay. All right. Anything further?
Just one
Rick.
quick question. Did you address is it a definite go for the relocation of that trailer to the site where the temporary trailers are? Is that a definite?
It works from the project's perspective. I sat with DPW, worked for them. I'm going to sit with facilities and double check with them, but
We're fine with it.
Okay, good.
looks so
Okay.
yes.
Thank you.
Anything further? Hearing none, I take a motion to adjourn.
Move for adjournment.
Second.
Let's do that just by voice vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous. Thank you very much.